I'm Lodging Editor Christine Killion. Thank you for listening to Lodging on Demand. In this episode, I spoke with Scott Neslage, Director of Lodging Operations for the Indigo Road Hospitality Group, and John Kattato, Senior Vice President of Essex Hotel Management, about their expectations for the 2022 summer travel season and how they're preparing as hotel operators to make the most of guest demand, optimize rate, and mitigate the effects of the latest challenges facing the industry. All right, so to start off, I'd love to hear about your expectations for this upcoming summer travel season, particularly in the U.S.
So what are we expecting from the upcoming summer travel season? We're seeing two factors that are working sort of against one another. On one hand, we're still seeing pent-up travel demand, particularly multi-generational travel, parents, kids, and grandparents that have not spent as much time together in recent years as they would have liked. On the other hand, we have sharply rising travel costs. So gas, airfare, rental cars are all looking very expensive for the summer season. So how does that reconcile? I believe people are still going to travel and gather this year, but I think they're going to look to travel an even shorter distance to do so. Last year we saw the 4 to 6 hour drive market as our primary feeder markets as fewer people were flying. And so this year, I think that drive may be more like 2 to 3 hours or even shorter in some cases to spend less on gas. So this may be the year of the overnight staycation.
Yeah, I think to echo a lot of what Scott said, we're seeing, very similar trends. I will say that a little bit different than last summer. We have seen our pace, our advanced bookings a little bit stronger than we were about a year ago. So, the good news is that while we still see those very short booking windows, it's not as much of our business. But I agree. I think we're looking at much shorter stay patterns. For us, that presents a little bit of a challenge with labor, trying to get into as much as we can, some 2-night minimums just to take the pressure off of some of our locations with having to turn the hotel every night. But we do expect travel, unless there's some, anomaly, as we all know, that can pop up at any time. We expect travel this summer to be strong.
And since you mentioned labor, John, I'd love to hear about some of the challenges you both anticipate for this season and how you're working to navigate those issues.
I think, as we all know, labor continues to be a real challenge in the hospitality industry. I can say that we've started to see a little bit of a lessening impact as we've moved from south to north with our portfolio. But still, not having as many people on board as we traditionally have. And so I think for us, as I said a minute ago, we're trying to take a look as much as possible of instituting some stay restrictions to try and get multiple night stays, to try and do our best to take the burden off of the staff of having to turn the hotel on a more frequent basis. We've gone to contract labor in some markets. We actually have Floridians that are contract labor working in our hotel in Lake Placid because, right now it's a dynamic that works for us. We're thankful that the student visa programs have been a little bit easier to come by this summer because we rely on them heavily in some of our markets as well. So it's going to continue to be a grind, but we're hopeful that with stay restrictions and with some additional staffing support from non-traditional sources, we'll be able to weather the storm.
Scott, how about you? What challenges do you expect to see, and how are you working with those?
I think to echo those comments, staffing is absolutely going to be the biggest challenge, I think, this summer. What are we doing about it? Of course, we're leaving no stone unturned with things like job fairs and, promoting employee referrals. We're also employing some fairly creative tactics. For example, we've got a hotel that needs bartenders. We just can't seem to find the right candidates. So we hosted a local bartenders focused class, just a skill building class to stay involved in the community, just to keep ourselves relevant. And we had our Indigo Road beverage director fly in and hosted 13 individuals from the local bar community to learn some new tricks and recipes. So, things like that, just to stay relevant, have helped. But the bottom line is nobody's in a position, the position that they want to be this summer from a staffing perspective. So the question becomes, what do you do about it? We're really seeing a lot of first-time bookers, new guests that have never stayed with us before. So with the staff we have, one of our biggest focuses this summer is really creating, memorable, meaningful experiences that are going to encourage repeat visits. So with a new audience, it's really important to, always set accurate expectations ahead of the stay, and then deliver fully on your promises, when they're on property. So that's where we're focused.
Yeah, let's dive into that a little bit more about preparing to make the most of the demand that's available. How are you capturing those travelers and then turning them into hopefully repeat bookings?
Yeah, so one of our primary strategies to make the most out of the available demand is to really leverage guest-facing experiences. So we know people obviously are traveling for a reason. We want to play a central role during their stay for both on and off property experiences. So things like cocktail classes, or maybe it's a guided nature hike to a nearby waterfall in the forest. But by understanding who is traveling to see us, why they're coming, we really work to curate thoughtful experiences that help the guests make the most out of their stay, make the most out of their time together. So experiences are not only a potentially profitable add-on for a hotel, but they also drive high levels of guest engagement and satisfaction.
Mm-hmm. And John, how about you? What are you doing to prepare for those guests and make the most of their stay?
Yeah, I think that as we've seen, guest expectations, shortly post-pandemic were pretty relaxed expectations, and many of them were just happy to be traveling. I think as we've seen with the increase in average rate that guests are paying, those expectations have risen back to pre-pandemic levels. And I think that, as Scott said, we're really trying to focus on making sure that price value and that guest experience while they're in our hotels and interacting with our staff is as high a level as we possibly can deliver for them. It's a challenge because you're trying to do more with fewer people, but it really is taking time and working back with our staff and reemphasizing the importance of taking those moments of interaction. Branded hotels work so hard with digital key and mobile key to try and minimize the interaction with your staff. It's critical that when we have those moments of truth, that we're doing everything we can to deliver a great experience to help at least partially justify the increase in rate and hopefully build that loyalty for guests coming back to us in the future.
And let's talk more about optimizing rate. I mean, ADR, as you mentioned, is exceeding 2019 levels in many cases. So what are some of your strategies for that?
I think going along with what I talked about a short time ago, it's really trying to make sure that as best we can, we're maximizing length of stays. If we're not able to get the length of stay, we're actually sometimes charging a premium on that one night stay as opposed to somebody who may be staying 2 or 3 nights. We're comfortable, and one of the strategies that we talk with our GMs about and our revenue managers about constantly is being comfortable filling last and being okay with doing what you need to do to hold rate, monitor your demand, making adjustments on multiple times a day if we need to. As I said, one of the advantages is that we've seen a little bit more advanced booking in some respects. So I think that's helpful with that base. But, candidly, it's not being embarrassed about asking for high rates when we need to. Costs are up, demand is up, and we're having to do what we can to try and make sure that we're taking advantage of that when we can. And honestly, without knowing how things will progress, both from a geopolitical and economical standpoint as we move through the summer, it's critical that we take advantage of those opportunities now and every chance, because it could change in a moment's notice.
Yeah, absolutely. We believe that the best strategies are always formed after thorough analysis of data. So we're constantly reviewing our advanced booking patterns, the competitive landscape, adjusting strategy, and working to optimize rate. I can't give away too many secrets, but I will echo John. He's spot on. With more demand coming in from closer and closer drive markets, length of stay has become a more important metric for us to watch really closely this year. The other piece that seemed to return and is definitely helping us in our overall yielding puzzle is group business. Is definitely up from last year. We're seeing a lot of social groups, wedding groups that are really, getting some of that base on the books that we need in order to yield up into our transient segments.
And I'd love to get both of your advice for other hotel operators who are preparing for this summer season. What words of wisdom do you have for them?
My biggest piece of advice: work with what you've got. None of us is in the perfect position this year with all the resources that we want, all the staff we want to host the perfect summer. So success this year is all about fully utilizing what you have, being thoughtful about your guests, their needs, their wants, and staying flexible. Be ready and willing to adapt your strategies and your tactics when you see conditions change.
I agree 100%. It really is one of just continuing to monitor what the landscape looks like. I think, as Scott said, being flexible. We continue to be extremely flexible with cancellations and allowing guests to change stays and whatever they need to do, because honestly, at this point, we've got staffing challenges, we've got excess demand, and we know that our guests are trying to do the best they can to continue to navigate, in some cases, unimaginable obstacles that may arise. So, yeah, I think it's taking advantage of every opportunity and taking advantage of maximizing what we have to offer and remaining flexible. But I think, right now it's, as I said earlier, don't be embarrassed of charging rates. Do your best to deliver that guest experience when you can. And again, for us, it's don't be afraid to fill last.
Well, thank you both for your time and insights today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks very much for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to Lodging on Demand. If you want more content like this, subscribe to Lodging Magazine on YouTube. You can also subscribe to Lodging on Demand wherever you get your podcasts. For news and updates, follow @Lodging Magazine on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, or visit us at lodgingmagazine.com.